Humiliation is the moment when fear is lost, when dignity is stripped away in front of others, and when the throne you thought was yours is pulled from beneath your feet. It feels like an execution carried out in public view. History shows that rulers who lost their aura of command often faced swift downfall, not because they lacked ability, but because their image of power was shattered. When you are humiliated, the perception of weakness spreads faster than fire, and those who once stood beside you drift away. That is why humiliation must be understood as a battlefield, not a private wound. If you see it only as pain, it will bury you. If you see it as war, it becomes the forge for your resurrection. The first truth is that humiliation strips you like an executioner taking the crown from your head. In courts, in offices, and even in friendships, when your respect is publicly torn away, the damage is not just personal, it is political. Your authority collapses because others see you as dethroned. Accept that reality. Stop hoping people will forget. They will not. Men forget the death of a father sooner than the loss of their reputation or possessions. Do not deny this execution. Recognize it as the first strike of war. The second truth is that humiliation contains hidden power. Modern psychology shows that the sting of shame activates the same regions of the brain as physical pain. This is why it cuts so deep. This is why it cuts so deep. But that pain is also raw energy. Athletes who fell publicly often return stronger because they channel disgrace into fuel. Professionals fired in shame often become sharper leaders when they rise again. The humiliation you suffer gives you material no comfort can ever provide. Use it as firewood. The world respects not the one who never fell, but the one who returned hardened. The third truth is that the enemy you face is not the one who mocked you. It is your own weakness in the aftermath. If you kneel before shame, you are conquered forever. If you rise with calm strength, you become untouchable. Imagine humiliation as an assassin's blade. If you collapse, it ends you. If you seize it, you turn it into your weapon. From this battlefield, only one command matters. Stand. Stand ruthless, and declare to yourself, I rise where others break. The throne of your mind is the first territory that humiliation tries to conquer. When you are disgraced, shame does not simply visit you. It storms the gates like a traitor inside the walls. If you allow it to sit on the throne, every decision, every movement, every glance will be colored by defeat. History has shown how rulers who allowed shame to linger lost more than battles. They lost entire kingdoms because their authority withered from within. You must treat shame not as a wounded companion, but as an enemy agent. Execute it before it executes you. Cut it down the moment it whispers that you are defined by one fall. The mind cannot serve two masters. Either shame rules or sovereignty rules. Memory must serve you as intelligence, not as master. Humiliation will replay itself in your mind like a courtroom recording. Left unchecked, it enslaves you. But if you treat memory as a loyal servant, it becomes useful intelligence. Athletes replay losses, not to drown in shame, but to study weakness. Leaders examine past disgrace, not to wallow, but to find openings. The sting is real, but when you command memory, you turn it into a weapon. Use every recollection as reconnaissance. Ask not why me, but what flaw was exposed. Then act on it. Strengthen the breach. Reinforce the walls. Convert every echo of mockery into information for your next strike. When a colleague once mocked your mistake in front of others, the weak reaction would be to lash out or retreat in silence. The strong reaction is stillness and clarity. By calmly correcting the error without apology theater, you show that your throne remains intact. You neither bow to the aggressor nor waste fury. You remain the ruler even in the presence of challenge. This poise disarms those who expected you to collapse. Your throne is never taken unless you surrender it. The shame of humiliation is an assassin, but you decide whether it carries your crown away or sharpens your command. Remove the traitor, install the sovereign, and force memory to serve your strategy. Above all, remember, the throne of your mind must never be ruled by shame. Morning is the battlefield where humiliation is either defeated or allowed to reign. When you wake, the duel begins. The weight of yesterday's disgrace tries to drag you back into the ground. The temptation to stay down, to delay, to surrender to comfort is the first attack. If you yield, humiliation wins before the day begins. Discipline at dawn is the first act of war. Commanders through history understood that the earliest hours set the tone for the campaign. Soldiers drilled before sunrise because the enemy never sleeps. Leaders rose early, not for romance, but because hesitation is weakness. If you wake with purpose, you declare to your mind that yesterday's execution will not repeat today. If you roll over in defeat, you crown humiliation as ruler before you even step out of bed. Every ritual at the start of the day is a weapon. Do not underestimate small wins. Making your bed, moving your body, even standing tall in the mirror are not trivial. They are maneuvers in psychological warfare. Weak, it's just a chore. Strong, this is my first conquest. Weak, I'll skip today. Strong, I never skip war. Each small act is a soldier on the field. Collect them, and your army grows. Neglect them, and your army deserts. Modern life tempts you to dismiss these acts as insignificant, but in truth they create momentum. The sting of humiliation must not be ignored in this battle. You must use it as fuel. The shame you feel when remembering a public failure can either paralyze you or ignite you. Picture it not as poison, but as firewood thrown into your furnace. The heat that burns is the same energy that drives motion. Athletes who lost on the world stage often speak of the humiliation as the single greatest motivator in their training. Professionals who endured public mistakes often recall the embarrassment as the force that hardened their resolve. If you allow the memory to weigh on you, it chains your arms. If you channel it, it sharpens your sword. Imagine two paths as you rise. On one, you surrender to comfort, checking your phone in bed, delaying your start, convincing yourself that one more hour does not matter. On the other, you rise immediately, engage your first discipline, and begin moving with intent. The difference is not symbolic, it is strategic. The first path cedes ground to humiliation. The second path strikes back with decisive force. Each morning is a duel, and your actions declare the victor before the world even sees you. Do not wait for motivation. Do not wait for conditions. Command yourself. The battlefield is not out there. It begins the moment your eyes open. Humiliation is already waiting, armed with memory and weakness. Meet it with discipline. Meet it with structure. Meet it with fire. When humiliation strikes, the instinct is to move fast, defend yourself, and fight to prove worth. That instinct is the trap. The superior weapon is stillness. Silence itself is power. In a world addicted to speed and constant reaction, restraint becomes terrifying. When you do not explain, when you do not rush to defend, you send a message. You are still in command. Colleagues may whisper, enemies may taunt, but your composure unsettles them more than any loud rebuttal. Weak, I must prove I am not defeated. Strong, I reveal nothing until I choose. Weak, I need to respond now. Strong, I control the timing of my response. In modern workplaces, when someone tries to publicly undermine you, the worst mistake is snapping back in the heat of emotion. A calm pause, followed by a measured statement later, demonstrates dominance. Stillness confuses those who expected chaos, and confusion is a weapon in itself. Obsession is the hidden advantage of humiliation. When you stay still, you begin to notice patterns you once missed. You see who smirks at your fall, who remains loyal, and who tries to use your wound for leverage. Stillness becomes surveillance. Every reaction to your humiliation is intelligence for your next campaign. Treat the event as training. Use the silence to study the battlefield. Record mentally who revealed envy, who exposed cowardice, and who showed unexpected respect. Like a chess master pausing before the next move, you learn by watching rather than rushing. The board reveals itself to the player who waits. Consider a moment of disagreement at work. Imagine someone mocks you for a failed project during a meeting. The instinct is to argue, to fire back defensively, but stillness, a composed face, and a slow, deliberate reply after the laughter dies is far more lethal. You state one calm correction, then shift focus back to the task at hand. The room feels the weight of your composure. You have denied your opponent the spectacle he craved and replaced it with an unsettling quiet. Stillness is not weakness. It is the predator crouched, the general waiting for the enemy to overextend, the king unmoved on his throne as pawns scatter. Humiliation tempts you to frenzy. Resist, endure, wait. Then act with precision. Remember this law. The silent predator rules the battlefield. Humiliation is a torch that lights up every weakness around you. In that fire, betrayers are exposed, illusions are burned away, and habits that once hid in the shadows become visible. This is not a curse, but a weapon. It shows you where to cut. Machiavelli observed that men reveal themselves in times of fortune and misfortune, and humiliation is one of the clearest mirrors. When you are disgraced, watch closely. The ones who step back, who smirk, who speak differently when they believe you cannot rise, those are not allies, they are liabilities. History is full of rulers who trusted too widely, only to find that defeat revealed who was truly loyal. Once identified, act with clarity. Do not explain. Do not beg. Remove them. A kingdom cannot stand with traitors inside the walls. Neither can your life. It is not only people who must be cut away. Habits that once seemed harmless are often the very causes of humiliation. Indulgence, laziness, the comfort of delay, the weakness of trying to please everyone, these are the cracks that collapse the fortress. If you were humiliated for poor performance, then the late nights wasted scrolling or the mornings missed in discipline were not small things, they were seeds of downfall. If you were humiliated for misplaced trust, then your habit of avoiding confrontation was not kindness, it was negligence. Eliminate these patterns with the same ruthlessness you would use to clear enemies. Weak, this is just who I am. Strong, this habit dies today. Weak, it's not a big deal. Strong, every weakness is a threat. When you cut habits, you cut the roots of disgrace. Precision is the final law. Do not destroy blindly in anger. Think like an assassin, cold and exact. You do not burn the whole city because of one traitor. You target the right one. When a colleague mocks you, do not erupt at the entire group. Mark the individual. Hold your composure and deal with them strategically when the timing is yours. When a habit undermines you, do not declare war on your entire nature. Focus, slice and replace it with a stronger discipline. Ruthless elimination is not rage, it is surgical cleansing. The assassin who hesitates dies. The ruler who cuts carelessly loses his people, but the one who strikes with accuracy commands respect. Humiliation reveals the map. It shows where the leaks are, who the betrayers are, and what in you must die. If you ignore it, you remain weak. If you rage blindly, you create more enemies than you remove. But if you eliminate with precision, you rise leaner, sharper, and harder to break. When humiliation strikes, people do not forget. The image of your fall lingers in their memory longer than your excuses. This is why you must rebuild your presence not through apologies, but through the mask of command. History respects those who hold their posture, even in disgrace. Leaders who collapsed in demeanor confirmed their enemy's judgment, while those who stood tall, even wounded, re-established authority. Command is projected first through how you carry yourself. Shoulders back, voice steady, movements measured. These are the symbols of power. A ruler without armies can still command loyalty if he looks unbroken. A ruler with armies can still lose if he appears weak. Never let your bearing betray the throne you are reclaiming. Reputation rises or falls on image, not explanations. The more you talk about your humiliation, the deeper the wound in others' eyes. Weak, I want you to understand what really happened. Strong, I have already moved forward. Weak, let me explain why I failed. Strong, watch how I rise now. People are not persuaded by your defenses, they are persuaded by your transformation. In modern terms, if you suffer public embarrassment, you bury it under consistent excellence. The new work, the new presence, the new strength becomes your shield. Each achievement, each controlled appearance, layers over the memory of the fall. Explanations are fuel for gossip. Reputation is armor. Do not waste time repairing what people think with words. Overwhelm them with a stronger image that silences questions before they are asked. To wear the mask of command is not to deceive, it is to govern perception. You do not show every wound, every doubt, every scar. You allow people to see the sovereign, not the struggle. Like an actor king, you rule the stage with a mask no one can pierce. Imagine a disagreement at work. A peer points to your previous humiliation, making a subtle remark in front of others. If you protest loudly, you confirm their words. If you remain calm, raise your head, and redirect the conversation to your current victory, you shift the room. Your restraint tells everyone that you are not chained by the past. The mocker gains nothing. The audience sees a leader in control. This is the mask in practice. You reveal nothing that weakens your throne. Command through demeanor. Reputation over explanation. The mask of command is not a lie. It is discipline in how you present yourself to the world. The throne is regained, not by confessions, but by presence. Those who mocked will wait for cracks. Give them none. Those who doubted will look for proof. Provide it in strength, not words. The actor king rules perception until the truth of his authority is undeniable. Hold the mask until it becomes your face. Remember this law. Power returns to the one who never lets the mask slip. The first strike of this assassin must be against self-pity. Wallowing is the slow poison of the defeated. You repeat the story of your disgrace, replay the laughter, sink into the weight of regret. That is weakness, disguising itself as reflection. Reflection has purpose, wallowing has none. Weak, I cannot believe this happened to me. Strong, it happened, and I rose sharper. Weak, I don't deserve this. Strong, I will not remain in this state. The assassin part of you does not debate with pity. It eliminates it. The longer you entertain it, the more power it gains. Command yourself to stand. Command yourself to act. Strike down the impulse to kneel before shame. History proves that rulers who endured humiliation often returned stronger by channeling it into strategy. Machiavelli himself tasted exile after Florence turned against him. Stripped of office, Disgraced in public life, he could have drowned in despair. Instead, he wrote his most enduring work, sharpening his insights on power while others assumed he finished. Octavian, later Augustus, faced mockery and near defeat in the early days of Rome's civil wars. Yet he studied every rival, concealed his weakness behind patience, and struck only when the moment was exact. Humiliation did not destroy these men. It trained them in ruthlessness. They learned not only from their own fall, but from watching the moves of their enemies. Your assassin must do the same. Study rivals, not with envy, but with forensic intent. Learn where they strike, how they recover, and what errors expose them. Every observation becomes another weapon in your arsenal. Finally, the assassin creates a kill list, not of people, but of weaknesses. List the indulgences, the hesitations, the leaks that expose you to humiliation. Laziness, oversharing, seeking approval, trusting the wrong voices. Each one is a liability. Each one must be executed. Imagine them as targets on the wall. With precision, eliminate them one by one. Replace laziness with discipline, oversharing with control, approval-seeking with self-command. Do this ruthlessly. Do this without apology. The assassin in you is cold because survival demands it. If you hesitate, those weaknesses regroup and betray you again. If you strike with precision, they never return. Consider a modern example. A colleague highlights your previous failure in a meeting. The wounded part of you wants to argue, defend, and prove your worth in desperation. The assassin in you stays silent, notes the attack, and responds with a controlled remark that reasserts authority. No pleading, no begging for sympathy. Just composure and strength. The room sees not a victim, but a figure who cannot be shaken. That is the discipline of the assassin. No wasted motion, no unnecessary exposure, only decisive execution. The inner assassin is your shield against humiliation becoming permanent. Kill self-pity, learn from rivals, execute your weaknesses. Do this with cold clarity, not rage. Your rise depends not on kindness to your flaws, but on precision in eliminating them. When humiliation strikes, sharpen the blade inside you and declare, I execute weakness before it executes me. Humiliation is a fork in the path. One direction feeds the sheep, the other awakens the wolf. The sheep bows its head, internalizes defeat, and spends the rest of life avoiding risk. The wolf sharpens its teeth on the stone of disgrace and rises hungrier than before. You must decide which one you feed. History shows that humiliation has often been the spark for transformation. Leaders stripped of power, commanders disgraced in failure, athletes broken before the crowd. Many of them turned shame into fuel for dominance. They did not deny their fall. They used it as a reminder of what happens when hunger is lost. Humiliation is the raw meat that either rots in the stomach of weakness or ignites the appetite of a predator. Training the appetite is the discipline that turns this instinct into power. Pain alone does not transform you. Work does. Every time you convert shame into action, you feed the wolf. Early mornings, relentless study, physical discipline, financial control. These are meals for the predator inside. Modern examples prove it. Many who faced public humiliation rebuilt their lives through obsession with their craft, turning ridicule into the spark for mastery. The wolf survives because it never stops moving toward the next hunt. You must do the same. Let the sting of embarrassment push you into motion, not paralysis. Do not numb it with distractions or cheap comforts. Train your hunger to crave effort, not escape. Finally, envision the wolf's return. Imagine stepping back onto the same stage where you once fell. The same people watch, but this time their laughter dies. They feel the weight of your new presence. What was once your site of defeat becomes your ground of conquest. This vision is not fantasy, it is strategy. Hypothetical rehearsal in the mind strengthens your resolve in reality. You become the predator who returns to the place of past weakness and claims it as territory. The wolf not only survives the humiliation, it uses it as the very reason to dominate. Feeding the wolf is a choice. Starve it, and you remain sheep, docile and broken. Feed it, and you transform disgrace into drive, shame into strength, humiliation into hunger. Discipline is the meat, action is the hunt. Resolve is the kill. Remember this law. The wolf you feed is the man you become. In chess and in war, sacrifices are not always signs of weakness. A skilled player will give up a pawn, sometimes even a major piece, to gain a position that ensures victory later. History shows commanders who abandoned territory, retreated strategically, or allowed temporary disgrace to regroup and strike back harder. To the crowd, it looked like failure. To the strategist, it was a calculated trade. Your humiliation can be understood the same way. You lost something, a reputation, an opportunity, a moment of honor, but the war is still being fought. You must treat that loss as a piece sacrificed to set up a greater return. Stop seeing it as the end. Start seeing it as part of the plan. The modern application is simple. When you suffer humiliation at work, in relationships or in public, you cannot erase it. What you can do is bury it under layers of future moves. If you are mocked for an error in front of peers, you do not waste weeks defending yourself. You channel energy into producing work so sharp, so undeniable, that the error fades into the background. Reputation is not preserved through argument, it is preserved through new victories. Each project delivered, each skill improved, each moment of controlled strength becomes another move on the board. Long-term revenge is not screaming for respect, it is silently stacking achievements until respect is no longer optional. To think like a grandmaster, you must train your vision beyond the present. The amateur reacts to the last move. The master sees 5 moves ahead. Humiliation blinds most people because they stare only at the wound. You must lift your eyes to the board. What do you want the position to look like 6 months from now? What skills, alliances, and strategies must be in place to ensure that today's disgrace becomes irrelevant? Imagine the battlefield where no one even remembers your fall because your rise was so calculated, so dominant, that the earlier loss has disappeared from memory. In this hypothetical vision, humiliation is not erased, it is invisible under the weight of your later triumphs. Consider a disagreement. A rival at work mocks your failed project in a meeting. The reactive move is to argue, to defend in the moment, to sacrifice calm for ego. The master's move is restraint. You let the remark pass, you finish the meeting with composure, and later you deliver results that silence the insult without a word. The board was tilted in your favor, not because you fought impulsively, but because you thought beyond the moment. The rival played checkers, you played chess. Humiliation is a piece, not a game. Sacrifice when necessary, plan beyond the immediate, and let every move be intentional. The master of the board is not remembered for one fall, but for final dominance. Etch this into your mind. I lose pieces, but I never lose the game. Humiliation is not erased by time. It is broken only by will forged harder than the chain that once bound you. Every day you must temper that will, striking it in fire, cooling it in water, repeating the ritual until nothing bends it again. History shows that the strongest figures endured humiliation, but instead of collapsing, they hardened themselves. Julius Caesar was once captured by pirates and mocked, but he endured and later returned with ruthless vengeance. Machiavelli himself was disgraced, imprisoned and tortured, yet out of exile, he produced insights on power that still shape strategy centuries later. These men did not escape humiliation by accident. They endured it, treated it as an anvil, and hammered themselves into iron. Rituals of pain are your training ground. Comfort never builds steel. Cold, discipline, and hardship are the furnaces where the will is hardened. This is why deliberate struggle matters. Wake early when every part of you craves more sleep. Train your body until your muscles ache. Sit in silence when the world tempts you with noise. Deny yourself excess food, distraction, or indulgence. Each act of controlled hardship is not punishment, it is preparation. Weak. I need things to be easier. Strong. I grow stronger when things are harder. Weak. I can't take the discomfort. Strong. Discomfort is my forge. Modern life seduces you into softness, but humiliation demands proof of strength. Discipline is not about self-denial for its own sake. It is about proving daily that your will cannot be bent by weakness. Imagine the mind as raw metal. Humiliation strikes it like a hammer, but if you submit to the blow, you remain brittle. If you temper it with fire, quenching, and repetition, you become steel. This is the hypothetical law of the steel mind. Visualize yourself entering the fire willingly, the sting of shame, the memory of defeat. These are flames licking at you. Instead of fleeing, you remain absorbing the heat. Then you quench it with cold rituals, discipline, silence, endurance. Again and again, you repeat until nothing can warp you. A mind trained like this does not crack under mockery, does not fold under pressure, does not collapse at the return of humiliation. It has become iron. Consider a workplace confrontation. Someone tries to undermine you by reminding others of your past mistake. The untrained mind lashes out defensively. The iron-willed mind stays calm, addresses the present with clarity, and continues its work unshaken. The attacker gains nothing. The room witnesses composure under fire. That moment is not luck. It is the result of daily rituals that hardened you long before the attack came. You trained for war when others slept in peace. Humiliation loses its grip only when you build yourself into someone untouchable. To reach that level, you must rise beyond apology, beyond defense, beyond the reach of ordinary mockery. History shows that those who transformed disgrace into command did so by making themselves indispensable. Leaders who endured public failure but refused to collapse often returned to power with greater strength. Their enemies mocked them once, but never again because they built an aura too strong to pierce. Reputation restored by sheer force of presence, by victories that erased memory, by achievements that silenced critics. Untouchability is not luck, it is strategy. The first law of becoming untouchable is learning from the great figures who rose from humiliation. Many rulers endured disgrace, exile or betrayal, yet rebuilt empires greater than the ones they lost. They did not erase the past, they overshadowed it. Machiavelli himself, once broken and cast aside, used his exile to craft insights on power that rulers studied long after his death. He was no longer a man defined by defeat, but a thinker who shaped how sovereigns ruled. The pattern is clear. You do not stay down because of humiliation. You turn it into the ground on which you build something greater. History remembers not the moment of shame, but the unshakable authority forged afterward. The second law is building a modern aura that makes ridicule powerless. In today's world, power comes through control of your resources, your time, and your reputation. Wealth, skill, and influence are shields. If you are mocked but your results are undeniable, mockery loses value. Weak. I need people to respect me, Strong, I command respect by force of results. Weak, I want them to stop criticizing me. Strong, their criticism dies in the shadow of my proof. Do not argue with humiliation. Overwhelm it. When your discipline, financial control, or mastery of craft grows undeniable, you stand in a position where words cannot touch you. The aura of strength makes ridicule look small. The third law is to visualize yourself on the untouchable throne. Imagine arrows of mockery fired at you, shattering before they land. This is not fantasy, it is mental armor. When you carry this vision, you no longer react to every insult. You remain seated, composed, sovereign. Picture yourself walking into the same arena where you once failed. The same faces watch, waiting for you to break again. But you move with calm command, and their whispers collapse into silence. This vision becomes reality when your actions align with it. When you train daily, build relentlessly, and show no cracks. The throne of the untouchable is not built overnight. It is layered through discipline and time until no attack can shake it. Consider the moment when a rival tries to drag your past humiliation back into conversation. The ordinary response is defensive anger. The untouchable response is stillness and subtle redirection. You acknowledge nothing, reveal nothing, and simply move the discussion forward with authority. Your silence is not weakness. It is a demonstration that their arrows cannot land. The room notices your rival looks smaller, not you. That is the aura of the throne in practice. Becoming untouchable means you have transformed humiliation from a weapon against you into fuel for your reign. You build strengths so solid that no insult finds a mark. You create achievements so clear that no mockery survives. You wear a presence so commanding that no one dares repeat your past against you. This is the final law of rising from disgrace. When the throne is untouchable, humiliation dies at its gates. Humiliation is not the end. It is the fire that burns away weakness and leaves only what cannot be destroyed. Every law you have learned converges here, in the crucible where disgrace becomes sovereignty. This is the dark resurrection. You are not rising despite humiliation, you are rising because of it. The very ashes that once buried you are the soil from which you build an iron throne. The path is not gentle, it is violent, demanding, merciless toward weakness. But if you endure it, you emerge untouchable. The first law of resurrection is the Phoenix principle. Throughout history, men and nations alike have been broken, mocked, or cast out, only to return with greater force. Julius Caesar, once humiliated by pirates and political rivals, returned to Rome with such strategic brilliance that he reshaped the Republic into an empire. Machiavelli, disgraced, imprisoned, and tortured, wrote the very principles of power that still instruct leaders centuries later. They did not rise by pretending humiliation never happened. They rose by using humiliation as the essential ingredient of their transformation. Fire consumes, but fire also tempers. Your humiliation is that fire. Accept it. Do not curse it. Harness it. This is the beginning of sovereignty. The second law is to become the strategic predator. You are feared now because you were once broken. People respect those who never fell, but they fear those who fell and came back sharper. The predator who has tasted hunger hunts differently than the one always fed. The wolf that starved in winter becomes the wolf no rival dares face in spring. Your humiliation taught you pain, betrayal, and weakness. That knowledge is your new advantage. You know what it feels like to be mocked. You know how it feels to be ignored, dismissed, or underestimated. Use it. While others waste energy seeking comfort, you channel the memory of pain into precision. Weak, I must prove I am not weak. Strong, I strike only when it matters. Weak, I want them to forget. Strong, I want them to remember who I became. Fear is not created through explanation, it is created through demonstration. When you rise from humiliation with control, enemies stop laughing. They start calculating. The third law is final transformation. Visualize the Iron Throne built not in spite of ashes, but because of them. Imagine the stage where you once fell. The same crowd watches, expecting your collapse again. This time you walk with calm power. Their arrows of mockery strike but shatter in the air, never reaching you. This is not fantasy, it is strategy. Every ritual you adopted, every weakness you killed, every habit you replaced, every discipline you embraced has built armor around your throne. You are no longer the person who fell. That version of you died in the fire. What stands now is a sovereign who understands both defeat and dominance. The throne you sit on is forged from the very humiliation that once sought to destroy you. Consider a modern example. You are in a meeting, and a rival brings up your past mistake, hoping to weaken you. The old self would defend desperately, lash out, or shrink into silence. The resurrected self simply listens, smiles slightly, and shifts the conversation toward your current achievement. No wasted emotion, no desperate need for validation. The room feels the difference. You are not proving yourself, you are ruling yourself. The rival looks petty, you look untouchable. That is resurrection in action, turning attempted humiliation into evidence of your sovereignty. The dark resurrection is not about pretending you never fell. It is about embracing that fall as the exact reason you are now feared, respected, and unbreakable. The phoenix is not admired because it never died. It is revered because it rose from its own ashes. Your throne is not clean, polished, and untouched. It is forged from failure, humiliation, and fire. That is why it is indestructible. Every scar is part of its foundation. Every insult is melted into its steel. Every moment of shame is welded into its iron. Humiliation is the crucible. You are the metal. Rise through it, sharpened, hardened, sovereign. Stand tall. Not in spite of your disgrace, but because of it. The predator, the strategist, the ruler. You are all three now, forged in one resurrection. And when the world sees you return, they will know one truth. From humiliation I built my throne. Humiliation is the battlefield where many remain chained for life. Accept it passively, and you stay a servant to the memory of defeat. History shows that rulers who failed to rise from disgrace lost not only their throne, but the respect of their people. They became permanent reminders of weakness. Once stripped of dignity, they never reclaimed it, and so they vanished from influence. This is the final warning. If you allow humiliation to define you, you accept slavery, not slavery in chains of iron, but slavery to the perception of others. The world crowns you only if you first crown yourself. If you do not seize command, the battlefield of perception becomes your prison. The opposite is equally true. Those who rise ruthlessly after humiliation not only silence mockery, they dominate it. Modern life is filled with examples of individuals who endured public embarrassment, yet rebuilt themselves into commanding figures. They did not beg for understanding, they buried their failures beneath undeniable results. This is the final promise. When you stand tall after humiliation, you turn perception itself into your ally. People forget explanations, but they cannot forget strength. Weak. I hope they see I've changed. Strong. I will make them see what I achieve. Weak. Please stop reminding me of my fall. Strong. My rise makes the fall irrelevant. Do not waste time pleading with perception. Rule it. The throne of perception belongs to those who seize it with composure and proof. When humiliation strikes again, you must show not a flicker of collapse. Respond with stillness, and let your next moves carry the message. Imagine yourself on an iron throne forged from your own disgrace. Every insult fired at you hits the armor of your presence and shatters. Every attempt to remind you of the past only highlights the distance you have traveled since then. You are not erasing humiliation, you are weaponizing it. What once burned you now burns for you. What once mocked you now kneels before you. This is the law of the dark resurrection sealed in a single command. Never let humiliation slave you. Never explain it. Never hide from it. Use it. Wield it. Rule with it. And carve into your mind the mantra that must guide you forward. Humiliation is the blade. Wield it, and the throne is yours.